Hey, today I'll tell you whether now in 2024 is a good time to buy a property in Denmark or not. If you're thinking about buying a house or buying an apartment, this video will help you make a better and more informed decision. And straight on, my take is that yes, it's probably a good time to buy. I think that so long as the economy keeps strong, prices won't really go down. If you're buying for the medium term, if you're buying for the long term, I would just go for it. Mind, the future is always full of uncertainties. I have a lot of confidence now though that the market will keep strong because we have seen interest rates climb and prices staying more or less steady. We have seen new taxes, especially for apartments, kicking in that are much higher than before, and still prices still keeping steady. So that gives me again confidence that the market will stay put. In the rest of the video I'll just explain this in more detail, and I'll tell you what I'll be doing personally, because again there's a lot more skin in the game for me this time than it has been in the previous years. If you're new here, my name is Mario, and on this channel I'll help people living in Denmark to buy a house, to invest, and overall live a great life, all mean for financial independence here in Denmark. So in 2022 and 2023 we had seen interest rates going up from what was almost 0 to 1% to over 5%. Now interest rates have gone down, they're around 4% now, but they're still 4 times higher than they were at the eve of the pandemic. That cooled down the market, but as I said before, it picked up again. In 2024 we had the new property taxes kicking in. They made living in apartments in the big cities substantially more expensive in terms of taxes, to the tune again of a few thousand krona per month at least. Every expert predicted that the market would take a big hit after that. And though things cooled down in January and February, the prices are now higher right now, when I'm recording this video in autumn, than they were in December of last year. You can see this story again playing out in the square meter price graph, as you can see here. You can see that there was a little dip for the last few months on the taxes and a bigger dip when it was the interest rates that weren't climbing up. But the story is that the prices are still going up. And again, keep in mind, it costs considerably more to buy something now in terms of running costs than it was a few years ago. Again, 4% is 4 times more than 1% in terms of interest. That adds up. And if you add the extra taxes, it's like ouch, ouch. So what really keeps the market going up then, right? So my take is that it's the fundamentals. So what are the fundamentals of the Danish market? I would say number one is the strong economy. So Denmark has weathered COVID relatively well. The government and household finances remain relatively solid, and there's literally a booming job market with wage growth. All this is important because there's a high correlation between economic strength and asset prices such as real estate. You also have, for example, in cities like Copenhagen, but to a lesser degree in cities like Aarhus, a big influx of highly paid expats, or people coming from other countries to move into Denmark, and these people come for a fancier job, earning high salaries, and when they come to Denmark they also want to enter the proper market. So specifically for cities like Copenhagen, this sees prices also put some pressure into the prices and adds up to the demand. Number two is that it's still cheap. So in comparison with other cities in Europe, like Oslo, Stockholm, Helsinki, all those cities are more expensive than Copenhagen, for instance, to buy a property. When it comes to France or Switzerland or other places like Amsterdam, there's even a lot more. So putting that into numbers, right? So by the time I'm recording this, the square meter price in Copenhagen is around 56,000 krona. And you have 59,000 in Hamburg, you have like 69,000 in Stockholm. I would say that the gap is closer now than it was a few years back. And you could even argue that the Danish numbers are artificially low because we count corridors and some other shenanigans. But even then, Denmark, or Copenhagen at least, doesn't reach the European top 10. Number three is the demand and supply imbalance. It's crazy expensive to rent in Denmark, especially in Copenhagen. And at least when you can't get a good rent control apartment, and more on that in a different video, you often will have a better deal by owning your place versus by renting it, at least from a cash flow perspective. And it's, again, depending on how high your rent is and so on, like what type of loans do you get, but you can actually get a better deal from a cash flow perspective, which means that, again, more interesting for people to buy. With that said, these three fundamentals makes you think that at least there's a strong foundation. There's nothing that would just weigh the prices just come down, because as long as you keep having things like this moving in the as a tailspin here, as a tailwind, you'd see the prices staying steady, at least not crashing down big time. Also, if you want to learn more about buying an apartment in Denmark or buying a house, make sure to click the link in the video description where I have a big detailed guide. It's like almost 60 pages long or something crazy like that, explaining in depth and for free how you buy a house with all the rules or regulations you should know. So again, link down in the video description. So what is my recommendation if you're looking to buy a house or an apartment in Denmark? Basically, instead of telling you what you should do, I'll tell you what I am doing myself. So in 2024, I'm looking into buying a newer and bigger home myself. I like my apartment, the one you see here, and I'm looking leisurely, so it could be that I'm not finding something this year, but maybe hopefully next year or soon enough, right? But I have very specific criteria that fits like very specific properties I would be looking into. But I'm looking to buy right now if the right property comes up. So I could live in this apartment for 1 year more, 2 years, sometimes 3 years maybe, and I would be fine with that. Again, which is always a good situation to be in. You're not under pressure. But if the place pops up, I'm game on, which means that I'm okay paying these interest rates, I'm okay paying the higher taxes. I'm just like game on if I find the right place for me for the future. And because of that, I have been looking into the market a lot closer right now than I did in the past years. And I can tell you anecdotically some of the things I have been learning by being really active in the market lately is that the best places the ones that I was the most interested, sold really quickly. So even though the market, there's a lot of properties on sale, the very good ones were sold in a snap. And many were sold off market, so they were never really advertised. The only way you would know about them is that the real estate agent from New Bolig or Dan Bolig, one of those, you're on their list of interesting clients, and they would call you and say, hey Mario, there's this property that's coming up on sale. And like even the ones that got advertised got sold quickly. I have seen in that context, right? So in my same building, 2 neighbors selling their apartments in less than a week and without putting them in the market again. Like this was with these New Bolig guys coming in. They put a little paper outside, but it was never posted online, no photos, no nothing, and they sold it. And this is a big contrast to last year, where I would see some of the same apartments and some of the same properties out in the market for longer, and obviously advertised without knowing that they were sold even behind the market. So there's some momentum, you could say, or at least on the places I'm looking myself. And to wrap this up, is like sometimes you need more space, or sometimes you want to upgrade your lifestyle, and it sucks to be paying 4%. It sucks to be paying the higher taxes, but like literally that's the way it is. And my feeling is that a lot of people that have just the resources just also have kind of accepted this and have moved on to the fact that say, okay, we'll just get into the market and buy whatever it is. But do I recommend everyone to buy? I would say no. So when I'm looking to buy something, for example, something right now, I know that prices are high. I know that we could have a correction in prices, or the prices could fall over the coming years. I don't think so, but it could well happen. It's not a given that it would just be like a rocket ship further going higher again. So what I always tell people, and also what I look at myself, is that I'm always looking for something medium to long term, and that's like 3 years to 5 years. Because if you want to buy something today and you want to move out of Denmark next year, maybe you're lucky and the prices go up and then you make a nice good deal. But the reality is that you never know, and it would suck, because I know some people, like even some people in the building, that bought a place, 2 years later they needed to move out, and they had to sell at a loss for whatever reason, because they just really needed to move and they had not planned that ahead, and really it would suck to lose money on the transaction. So while I don't think we'll have a correction this year or next year, I'm confident that in 5 years or so prices will be higher than they are now, because of, again, the fundamentals I just talked about. So if you're looking for the short term, I would say 1 or 2 years, I would be wary. You can get lucky, but the risk of a one-off crash as we had in like 2022, when you see like the graph I showed you before, is still possible. So, and it would suck if you're stuck on that. But that's it from me today. Again, like, do check out my 40-60 page long guide on how to buy a property in Denmark. It includes everything you'll ever need to know. And if you have any questions or any feedback on what about buying a house in the market in Denmark at the moment, please let me know in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.